In which, meantime, seismic stations worldwide reported an anomaly originating not from Earth, but from the Moon. Dr. Hannah Kim stared at the readings in disbelief from her observatory in Seoul. "This is impossible," she whispered, adjusting her glasses as the data streamed in. "The Moon doesn't have active tectonic plates." Her assistant, Minho, rushed into the room with fresh printouts. His face was pale. "Dr. Kim, the readings are getting stronger," he said, handing her the papers with shaking hands. Hannah studied the seismograph patterns. The vibrations followed no natural pattern she recognized. They pulsed with an almost mechanical regularity. "Call the International Lunar Research Center," she ordered, "and get the telescope repositioned." Within an hour, observatories across Asia confirmed the readings. By dawn, the entire scientific community was buzzing with confusion and excitement. Hannah hadn't slept. She stood before the main monitor as the first images came in from the high-powered telescope. Fine lines had appeared across the Moon's surface, barely visible cracks that shouldn't exist. "Send these to Dr. Sunwoo at the Space Center," she told Minho. "Ask him if satellite imagery shows the same thing." By noon, amateur astronomers began posting similar observations online. The cracks were spreading, becoming visible through even basic telescopes. News organizations picked up the story, and within hours, millions watched the Moon with a mixture of wonder and fear. Hannah received a call from the Korean Space Command. "Dr. Kim, this is Colonel Ta Park. We need you at headquarters immediately." A military vehicle arrived 30 minutes later. As they drove through Seoul, Hannah noticed people standing in streets and on rooftops, all looking up at the daytime sky where the Moon was faintly visible, its familiar surface now marred by a web of fractures. At Space Command, Colonel Park led her to a secure room filled with military officials and scientists. "The cracks are deepening," he explained, gesturing to a wall of screens showing real-time images from military satellites. "And we're detecting energy readings unlike anything we've measured before." Hannah studied the data. "These energy patterns are regular, controlled. This isn't natural." "That's why you're here," Colonel Park said grimly. "We need to understand what we're dealing with." The world's governments released a joint statement urging calm while scientists investigated the lunar anomaly. But calm was in short supply. Religious groups proclaimed the end times. Stock markets plummeted. Social media overflowed with theories ranging from weapons tests to alien invasion. By evening, the cracks were visible to the naked eye, dark lines against the Moon's pale surface. News channels broadcast continuous coverage as experts struggled to explain the impossible. Hannah appeared on an emergency broadcast, carefully explaining what little they knew. "We're witnessing something unprecedented in human history," she said, choosing her words carefully. Behind her, live footage showed the fracture lines spreading like veins across the lunar surface. "The Moon appears to be experiencing structural changes that we cannot yet explain." She didn't mention the energy readings or the patterns that suggested intelligent design. Some information was too frightening to share before they understood it. For 3 days, the world watched and waited. People gathered in public squares, in churches, in homes. All eyes turned skyward as the Moon continued to crack. Schools closed. Many businesses shut down. The streets of major cities emptied as people huddled around screens or gazed at the sky. In the Space Command Center, Hannah hadn't left her post. She'd barely slept, sustained by coffee and the driving need to understand. "The fractures have reached critical depth," she told Colonel Park on the third day. "The lunar crust integrity is failing." As if triggered by her words, the main screen showed a new development. One of the larger cracks suddenly widened. A piece of the lunar surface lifted slightly, like the lid of a box being opened from within. "Are you seeing this?" Minho whispered. They were all seeing it. Around the world, billions of people watched as pieces of the Moon began to separate. The largest fragment, nearly 100 kilometers across, lifted away from the surface and drifted into space, revealing something beneath that reflected sunlight with metallic brilliance. "That's not rock," Colonel Park said. The first tremor registered at 3:42 a.m. GRE. More pieces broke away. The moon was shedding its outer layer, revealing an inner structure that was clearly artificial: smooth surfaces, geometric patterns, and organized structures that could only be the product of intelligence. In the control room, alarms suddenly blared. "We're picking up a transmission," a technician called out. "It's coming from the moon." Colonel Park rushed to the communication station. "What kind of transmission?" "Unknown format, sir, but it's directed at Earth, specifically at us." The transmission appeared on the main screen. A sequence of mathematical constants: the value of pi, the square root of 2, the golden ratio, followed by symbols no one recognized. As Hannah stared at the symbols, something strange happened. The unknown language seemed to shift before her eyes, the meaning forming directly in her mind without translation. She wasn't the only one. Around the room, people gasped as they experienced the same phenomenon. Colonel Park looked at her, his eyes wide. "Did you?" Hannah nodded. "I understood it. The message was simple but world-changing. The Guardians of Soul have awakened." 12 hours after the message, the skies above New York City darkened. A ship appeared above the United Nations building. It moved silently, gliding through the air like a stone across water. The vessel was unlike any human aircraft: sleek, silver, with no visible engines or wings. Fighter jets scrambled to intercept it, but the strange ship simply continued its descent, ignoring them completely. It stopped 100 meters above the UN Plaza, hovering without any visible means of support. Inside the building, world leaders had gathered in emergency session. The moon's transformation had brought old enemies together in shared fear. Russians sat beside Americans, North Koreans beside South Koreans, all differences temporarily set aside in the face of something beyond human understanding. A beam of light shot down from the ship to the plaza below. Through this column of light, a figure descended. The being looked almost human: 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with features in familiar places. But the similarities ended there. Its skin shimmered with a metallic glow, tiny flecks of silver catching the light as it moved. It stood taller than any human, with a grace that seemed impossible for its long limbs. UN security forces surrounded the visitor, weapons drawn but not firing. The being raised a hand in greeting. "I am Dad," it said, its voice somehow reaching everyone despite speaking at a normal volume. "I come as messenger for the Guardians." Within minutes, Dai was escorted into the General Assembly Hall. Cameras broadcast the scene worldwide as the visitor stood before Earth's gathered leaders. "Your ancestors called us the Solari," Dai explained. His words came in perfect English, though observers would later report hearing him in their native languages. "We visited Earth when humans were still learning to use tools. We saw potential in your species." Murmurs filled the hall as translators struggled to keep up. On screens around the world, humans of all nations watched in stunned silence. "We seeded Earth with elements of our knowledge, guiding your early development," Da continued. "Then we were forced to leave, to fight a war across the stars. The moon, you know, is not natural. It is our fortress, housing our defenders, preserved in stasis until needed." The Secretary General stepped forward. "You're saying the moon is artificial, a constructed object." "The outer shell is natural," Day replied. "A disguise. Beneath is the Guardian fleet, 1 billion ships and their crews, waiting for the day they would be needed." Dr. Hannah Kim watched from the Korean delegation section, barely breathing. Her entire understanding of astronomy, of human history, collapsed with each word Day spoke. "Why have you awakened now?" someone called out. Day's expression grew somber. "Because the enemy approaches. The same enemy that forced us to retreat long ago. We call them the Scourge." The hall erupted in questions. The Secretary General called for order, then asked Da, "What do you need from us?" "Understanding, cooperation, and representatives to meet with our commander. Day's silver eyes scanned the room, then fixed on Dr. Kim, the scientist who first detected our awakening, and the military officer who received our message. All eyes turned to Hana. She felt her heart pounding in her chest. 6 hours later, she and Colonel Park stood in a transport vessel, rising toward the moon. Through the viewport, they could see the transformed lunar surface. Huge sections of the moon's crust floated in orbit, revealing the artificial sphere beneath, a massive construction of unknown metal, with countless ships emerging from docking bays across its surface. "I never thought I'd go to the moon," Park said quietly, "especially not a moon that isn't really the moon." Hana couldn't reply. The enormity of what they were experiencing left her speechless. Their ship docked inside a massive hangar where hundreds of other vessels were being prepared. Beings like Dai moved with purpose, checking systems, loading supplies. They were preparing for war. Day led them through corridors that seemed to stretch for kilometers. "The Guardian flagship has been home to our forces for 50,000 years, he explained. "Admiral Jai is waiting." They entered a vast chamber dominated by a holographic display of the solar system. Standing before it was a figure that resembled Da, but wore elaborate armor that shifted colors like oil on water. "Admiral G. Day announced, I present Dr. Hana Kim and Colonel Park of Earth." The Admiral turned. His eyes were solid gold, with no pupils or whites. "Welcome, children of Earth," he said. "I wish our meeting came in better times." Hana bowed slightly. "Thank you for your welcome, Admiral. We have many questions." "As do we," Jai replied. "Much has changed since we last walked your world." He gestured to the holographic display. With a wave of his hand, it zoomed out to show the outer reaches of the solar system. A mass of red dots appeared beyond Pluto's orbit. "For 50,000 years we have slumbered," Admiral Jai explained. "Our sensors monitored deep space for signs of the scourge. 3 days ago, those sensors detected their approach. The hologram showed the red dots moving inward toward the planets." "What exactly are the scourge?" Colonel Park asked. "Destroyers. Consumers of worlds. They move through the galaxy absorbing all life and resources, using them to grow their fleet." G's golden eyes reflected the red dots of the hologram. "We fought them across 1,000 star systems before we were forced to retreat. Earth was young then, promising. We created this base to protect you until you could protect yourselves." Hana studied the tactical displays, trying to understand the scale of what she was seeing. "These dots, each one is a ship." "Yes, their advance force. Thousands of ships, each capable of destroying a city." Colonel Park leaned forward, military training taking over. "How long do we have?" "Days," Jai replied simply. "They have already passed Pluto's orbit." "Days?" Park repeated, his professional calm cracking slightly. "Earth has no defenses against something like this. Our most powerful weapons would be useless against anyone who can travel between stars." "That is why we are here," G said. "The Guardian fleet was built for this moment. 1 billion ships created to stand between the scourge and worlds like yours." Hana looked out a nearby viewport at the ships launching from the moon's interior. Thousands were already in formation, with more joining every minute. "Will it be enough?" she asked quietly. Admiral G's expression was grim. "That depends on whether humans can fight alongside us. The scourge are adaptable. They learn and evolve with each battle. Our tactics alone will not surprise them, but humanity's unpredictability might." Colonel Park squared his shoulders. "Earth will stand with you. We may not have your technology, but we know how to fight for our home." Jay nodded. "Then we must prepare. The scourge will not wait, and neither can we." Outside, the billion-ship Armada continued to form, a shield of light and metal spreading between Earth and the approaching darkness. The Emergency Council meeting in Geneva brought together military leaders from nations that had been enemies only days before. Russian generals sat beside American admirals. Chinese commanders next to Indian officers. All personal and political differences set aside in the face of extinction. We have 7 days before the main Scourge fleet reaches Mars, General Hume announced. The South Korean officer had been chosen as Earth's military liaison. Admiral Ji has provided technical specifications for weapons upgrades. We need every ship, every satellite modified immediately. No one argued. The video from the moon had been shared with every government, billions of ships emerging from their ancient hiding place, preparing for war. In the corner of the room, Dr. Hannah Kim sat quietly, still trying to process what had happened to her earlier that day. She had been in the Guardian laboratory with Suk, the Solari scientist, examining their communication technology. When Hannah's hand had accidentally brushed against a control panel, the system had activated. "That's impossible," Suk had said, silver eyes wide with surprise. "These systems only respond to Solari neural patterns." More tests revealed the truth. When Hannah placed her hands on Solari technology, she could sense its functions, control its operations through thought alone. Certain human bloodlines carry Solari genetic markers, Suk explained after examining Hannah's DNA. "You are distant descendants, capable of using our systems. We suspected some interbreeding occurred before we retreated, but to find the connection still exists after 50,000 years. This discovery changed everything. Within days, testing centers were established worldwide. Approximately 1 in 10,000 humans carried enough Solari DNA to interface with their technology. These rare individuals, mostly from East Asian and certain African populations, became essential to Earth's defense plans. At the Lunar Command Center, Colonel Topark watched as the first human pilots entered simulation chambers. 20 men and women chosen for their exceptional flying skills and newly discovered genetic compatibility. "Their reaction times are impressive," observed the Solari flight instructor, "especially considering they've never experienced true space combat." Park nodded, hiding his concern. These pilots would soon be flying Guardian interceptors, vessels capable of speeds and maneuvers that would kill an unprotected human. The Solari had provided special suits to help the pilots withstand the forces involved, but training time was desperately short. Meanwhile, Earth's existing space vessels underwent rapid modifications. Solari engineers worked alongside human technicians, installing shield generators and energy weapons onto satellites and space stations. Ships that once carried scientific instruments were transformed into makeshift warships. Not all Guardians welcomed human involvement. Commander Wu, one of Admiral Ji's senior officers, made his concerns clear during a strategy meeting. "These creatures barely understand space travel," he argued, not bothering to lower his voice as human officers entered the room. Their most advanced vessels would be considered primitive toys by Solari children. How can they help against the Scourge? Admiral Ji raised a hand for silence. "The humans offer perspective we lack. Our tactics are known to the Scourge after centuries of conflict. Human unpredictability may be our greatest asset." Wu was unconvinced. Unpredictability without power or skill is merely chaos. Dr. Kim had been present for this exchange, feeling the sting of Wu's dismissal, but she focused on her work, helping Suk calibrate the defense systems being established around Earth. Her ability to interface with Solari technology made her invaluable, despite Wu's doubts. The uneasy alliance continued. Human governments prepared their populations for possible attack. Cities built emergency shelters. Farms accelerated harvests. Military reserves were mobilized worldwide. Colonel Park led training for the first human contingent assigned to Guardian ships. 50 soldiers chosen for their compatibility with Solari technology. They would serve as liaison officers, helping coordinate between human and Guardian forces. "You will be the bridge between our species," Park told them during their final briefing. "Learn everything you can. Share everything you know. Our survival depends on cooperation." On the 5th day of preparation, Park received disturbing news. Long-range Guardian sensors had detected unusual activity near Jupiter's moon Europa, where a joint European-American research base had been established years earlier. "We've lost contact with the station," the communication officer reported. Last transmission indicated unknown objects approaching. Admiral G immediately dispatched scout ships to investigate. The images they sent back silenced all debate about human-Guardian cooperation. The Europa research station had been completely destroyed, not simply damaged, erased. Where the facility had stood, only a smooth depression remained in the moon's icy surface, as if something had taken a bite out of the landscape. More disturbing were the objects in orbit around Europa. Black, irregular shapes that defied typical spacecraft design. They resembled massive insects with too many limbs, their surfaces absorbing rather than reflecting light. "Scourge scouts," Admiral J confirmed grimly. "Their advance party has arrived." In the command center, humans and Guardians watched together as the scout ships transmitted more footage. The Scourge vessels moved with unnatural speed, changing direction instantly without apparent momentum. As they detected the Guardian scouts, they reacted immediately, converging on the observers. The transmission cut off as the scout ships fled, barely escaping destruction. "Now you understand what we face," Commander Wu said quietly to Colonel Park. The contempt in his voice had been replaced by something more sobering, simple acceptance of their shared peril. Park nodded. "My apologies for doubting the threat. Earth's forces are at your disposal, and our technology is at yours," Wu replied, surprising everyone present. "If we are to die, let us do so as allies." Dr. Kim looked up from her console, where she had been monitoring the transmission. "We're not going to die," she said firmly. "Not if we work together." Admiral Jai stepped forward, his golden eyes reflecting the tactical displays showing the Scourge scouts moving inward from Europa, toward Mars, and beyond it, Earth. "Prepare all ships," he ordered. "The enemy has arrived." The main Scourge fleet emerged from hyperspace near Saturn. The Guardian early warning system detected their arrival instantly. On the command deck of the flagship, Admiral G watched as the tactical display filled with thousands of red markers. "So many," whispered Dr. Hannah Kim, standing nearby. The Scourge vessels defied human understanding of spacecraft design. They resembled deep-sea creatures, massive, with flowing organic shapes that seemed to change as they moved. Dark energy tendrils trailed behind them like tentacles, absorbing light and matter they touched. "Their numbers have grown since our last encounter," Admiral G noted grimly. "They have consumed many worlds." On Earth, civilians watched the sky with fear and hope. The Guardian fleet was visible even in daylight, a gleaming shield of metal and light surrounding the planet. The moon, now revealed as an artificial construct, glowed with energy as more ships launched from its interior. Admiral G deployed the billion-ship Armada in a spherical defense grid. The inner layers surrounded Earth directly. Outer layers extended toward Mars, forming a barrier the Scourge would have to penetrate to reach humanity's home. Colonel Park stood on the bridge of the Korean Space Command vessel, Orang, now upgraded with Guardian technology. Around him, 29 other human ships prepared for battle, a small contribution compared to the Guardian fleet, but symbolically important. "All Earth vessels report ready," Park transmitted to Admiral J. "We will defend the inner perimeter." The 30 human ships positioned themselves in the defensive sphere closest to Earth. Their crews were nervous but determined. Many wore patches showing the new symbol of Earth's United Defense Forces, a blue planet sheltered by silver wings. The Scourge approached with frightening speed. Their first attack focused on the Guardian ships protecting Mars. The battle erupted in silent fury, energy weapons flashing across the vacuum, lighting the darkness with brief, brilliant explosions. Guardian ships moved with impossible precision, thousands of vessels acting as one organism, yet still the Scourge advanced, absorbing hits that should have destroyed them, reforming damaged sections almost instantly. "Their adaptive capabilities have improved," Commander Wu reported. "Our standard attack patterns are becoming less effective." This was where humanity made its unexpected contribution. Colonel Park had developed unconventional tactics based on Earth's historical naval and aerial combat. The human vessels didn't move with the mathematical precision of Guardian ships. They were unpredictable, seemingly chaotic. Earth vessels, execute maneuver Delta, Park ordered. The 30 human ships broke formation, each following its own seemingly random path. They darted between the larger Guardian vessels, firing their weapons from unexpected angles and positions. The Scourge targeting systems, built to predict the logical movements of Guardian ships, couldn't anticipate the human tactics. Several Scourge vessels were destroyed as they failed to defend against the erratic attacks. Fascinating, Commander Wu admitted. Their very primitiveness becomes an advantage. As the battle raged across the orbit of Mars, Dr. Kim worked desperately in the Guardian archives. Access to Solari genetic memory had given her unprecedented insight into Guardian technology and history. She searched for any weakness in the Scourge, any pattern that might help turn the tide. What she found instead was a terrible truth. "Admiral," she called urgently, "I need to speak with you immediately." Admiral G joined her at the archive interface. His golden eyes widened as she showed him what she had discovered. The Scourge were created by the Solari themselves, Dr. Kim explained. They were designed as a weapon against another species you were fighting, but they broke free from control. G was silent for a long moment. "Yes," he finally admitted, "an ancient mistake that we have paid for across millennia. The Scourge were never meant to develop intelligence or self-replication. When they did, we couldn't stop them. Why keep this secret from us? Would you have trusted us if you knew we had created the very enemy we now fight?" The battle continued, spreading inward from Mars toward Earth. Despite the combined efforts of Guardian precision and human unpredictability, the Scourge advanced steadily. Their numbers seemed endless, and their ability to adapt to attacks grew with each engagement. "We need a new approach," Dr. Kim insisted, "something they haven't seen before." She focused on what she had learned about Scourge biology. Though they appeared as separate ships, they functioned as a hive mind, connected through quantum signals that coordinated their actions. "Earth's magnetic field," she said suddenly. "It has unique properties the Scourge have never encountered. If we amplify it in specific patterns, we might disrupt their hive communication." Admiral G considered this. "Theoretically possible, but we would need to place resonance devices at precise points within their formation. Any ship attempting such placement would be destroyed. Not if we use stealth technology combined with human unpredictability," Dr. Kim argued. They developed the plan quickly. 5 resonance devices would be placed at strategic coordinates forming a pentagon around the Scourge command ship. When activated simultaneously, they would generate a disruption field that might break the hive mind's cohesion. Colonel Park volunteered immediately to lead the mission. "My ship is the fastest of the Earth vessels. I'll take my best pilots." In the launch bay, Dr. Kim helped load the resonance devices onto Park's ship. The devices were small but powerful, each containing technology far beyond human understanding. "You'll need to place them within 500 kilometers of these exact coordinates," she explained, marking positions on his tactical display. The points were dangerously close to the center of the Scourge formation. Park studied the map. "We'll have to pass through their entire fleet to reach these positions. The devices must be precisely placed or the resonance field won't form correctly," Kim insisted. "It's suicide," Park noted calmly, looking at the swarm of enemy ships they would need to navigate. "It's necessary," Kim replied. She hesitated, then added, "The fate of Earth depends on it." Park nodded once. "Then we'll make it work." As his ship prepared for launch, the Scourge broke through the outer defensive lines. The battle for Earth had begun in earnest. Colonel Park's ship accelerated through the battle zone, 5 smaller vessels flying in tight formation behind him. The resonance devices were distributed among their ships, 1 device per vessel, with Park carrying the master control unit. "Stay close," Park ordered as they approached the first wave of Scourge ships. Use the Guardian stealth technology only when necessary. It drains too much power to maintain continuously. They plunged into the heart of the battle. Around them, Guardian ships fought with precision and power. Brilliant energy beams crisscrossed the blackness of space. Silent explosions marked where ships from both sides were destroyed. The small Earth squadron maneuvered through the chaos, aiming for the coordinates Dr. Kim had marked. Their first target was near the orbit of Earth's moon. Deploying Device 1, reported Captain Lee as her ship reached position. She launched the small silver sphere into space. It activated automatically, emitting a soft blue glow. 1 down, 4 to go, Park acknowledged. Proceed to the next coordinate. As they pressed deeper into enemy territory, the Scourge began to notice them. 3 black, organic-looking ships broke off from the main battle to intercept them. Evasive maneuvers, Park ordered. Captain Yoon, activate your stealth now. Captain Yoon's ship seemed to fade from view as its stealth system engaged. While the Scourge were distracted, his vessel slipped past their line and reached the second target position. Device 2 deployed. Yoon confirmed before a direct hit from a Scourge energy beam destroyed his communications. His ship exploded moments later in a brief, silent flash. Park gritted his teeth but continued the mission. They had known the cost might be high. At the third coordinate, they lost 2 more ships. Captain Han managed to deploy the device before her vessel was torn apart by Scourge attack vessels that seemed to materialize from nowhere. We've been spotted, the pilot on Park's ship warned. They're converging on our position. Only Park's ship and 1 other remained, with 2 devices still to be placed. They pushed their engines beyond safe limits, racing toward the 4th coordinate. I'll draw them off, said Captain Kim on the last remaining support vessel. You place the final 2 devices. Before Park could argue, Captain Kim's ship veered away, firing all weapons to attract the Scourge's attention. It worked. The enemy ships followed, leaving Park a clear path to the 4th position. He deployed the 4th device, then watched as Captain Kim's ship was surrounded. It fought valiantly before disappearing in a flash of light. Park was now alone, with 1 device remaining. The final coordinate was at the very heart of the Scourge formation, close to their massive command ship. This vessel was unlike the others, a dark sphere surrounded by writhing tendrils of energy that reached out to connect with smaller Scourge ships. Park's ship was damaged now, leaking air and running on emergency power. The stealth system failed completely as he approached the final position. Immediately, dozens of Scourge vessels turned toward him. Energy beams struck his ship, destroying sensors, weapons, and finally the engines. Drifting on momentum alone, Park guided the dying vessel toward the coordinates. Communication systems failed next. He knew Dr. Kim and the others could no longer hear him, but he sent one final message anyway. For Earth. With the last of the ship's power, Park launched the final resonance device. It floated into position just as his vessel broke apart around him. From the Guardian flagship, Dr. Kim watched the tactical display with growing despair. All 5 human ships had vanished from their sensors. Had they failed? Then, one by one, the resonance devices activated. Blue light pulsed from each position, forming a pentagon of energy around the Scourge command ship. It's working, Suk exclaimed. The resonance field is forming. The 5 points of light connected, creating a web of energy that enveloped the Scourge command vessel. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The tendrils connecting the command ship to its fleet suddenly contracted, as if in pain. Throughout the solar system, Scourge vessels stopped in mid-attack. Some drifted aimlessly. Others began moving in random, uncoordinated patterns. The hive mind is fracturing, Admiral J observed. Without central coordination, they cannot function effectively. The Guardian Human Alliance pressed forward. The billion-ship Armada, which had been fighting defensively, now attacked with renewed purpose. Earth's remaining vessels joined the assault, targeting disoriented Scourge ships. Within hours, the tide of battle had turned completely. The Scourge command ship, still trapped in the resonance field, was destroyed by concentrated Guardian fire. Without leadership, the remaining Scourge vessels were hunted down one by one. On Earth, people emerged from shelters to see the light show in the sky, the final moments of a battle fought to save their world. As news of victory spread, celebrations erupted worldwide. Ancient enemies embraced in streets. Strangers wept together in joy and relief. But in the Guardian Command Center, the mood was more somber. Admiral J called Dr. Kim to his private tactical room. "We have won a great victory," he acknowledged. "Colonel Park and his team will be honored for generations to come." Dr. Kim nodded, still processing her grief at the loss of her friend and so many others. "But I must show you something," J continued. He activated a holographic display showing deep space beyond the solar system. Clusters of red dots moved slowly but steadily in their direction. "This was only the vanguard," Jai revealed. "Their main migration follows. Millions of ships, not thousands." Dr. Kim stared at the display in shock. "How long do we have?" "Years, perhaps. Time to prepare, if we use it wisely." She closed her eyes briefly, absorbing this harsh truth. "Earth will need to know." "Yes," Jai agreed. "But first, the Guardians have made a decision. We have watched humanity fight. Your courage, your creativity, your willingness to sacrifice. These are traits the Solari valued above all others." He placed a hand on her shoulder, a surprisingly human gesture for the alien admiral. "We've chosen our path," Jit continued. "The Guardians recognize humanity as the inheritors of the Solari legacy. Our knowledge, our technology, our ships, they are now yours as well." In the months that followed, Earth transformed. Guardian technology accelerated human advancement by centuries. Diseases that had plagued humanity began to disappear. Clean energy became abundant. Food production soared. The moon, now revealed as an ancient fortress, became the center of a new defense network. Observation posts were established throughout the solar system, watching for the approaching threat. Schools worldwide added Solari language and science to their curriculums. Children born with Solari genetic markers received special training to work with Guardian technology. 6 months after the battle, the first joint Guardian-human starships were commissioned. These vessels combined Guardian power with human innovation. Their crews worked and lived together, learning from each other. Dr. Kim stood on the observation deck of the Moon Fortress, watching as training flights of these new ships performed maneuvers against the backdrop of Earth. She thought of Colonel Park and the others who had sacrificed everything for this moment. A young Guardian officer joined her at the viewport. "The new cadets are performing well," he said, "both species learning from each other." Kim nodded. "We've come so far in such a short time." "Do you think we'll be ready?" the officer asked, his question reflecting the concern they all shared. Kim watched as Earth rotated below them, blue and green and beautiful. Humanity was no longer alone, no longer primitive. When the Scourge returned, they would find not just a planet, but a solar system ready for war. "Yes," she said with quiet confidence, "we'll be ready." Earth had become part of something greater, guardians of something precious, a fragile blue world worth fighting for among the stars. The end.